Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. This being the show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Blind Spot. Another great episode. I really love that we're quickly moving along with finding out what everyone's been up to these times during these time skips. And obviously it plays a role in this episode, but I'll kind of break that down in a little bit. Let's run things down. Basically, this episode mainly dealt with what Patterson and Rich were up to. It turns out they were part of a hacktivist group known as Three Blind Mice. It seems like they weren't doing it the entire time, because I was wondering about that whole thing Patterson was up to. It's no, that game thing was legit. I thought it was just all cover story, but it's no, it seems like she probably started working there after this whole hacktivist thing, because her and Rich ended up leaving a year into it. Because for them, I was we were doing good things. It's not like they were doing bad things. They were taking down governments and corporations and just bad people, the law kind of couldn't necessarily go after. So basically this episode dealt with a dude named, I think his name was, and it's Loey. Basically, the FBI arrested him because intel and tattoos led to the fact that there was a train crash that was connected to him. Basically, he ended up causing a business to kind of go under that had dealt with the parts to the train or whatever. Nevertheless, because of him, the train crashed and he made a boatload of money. His lawyer tried to be no, he didn't do it. Some hacktivist group is the one planting all this information. They end up capturing one of the three blind mice, who is this lady named Kathy, but she's I didn't do it. The fact of the matter is, I didn't plant that evidence. I brought it back because he deleted it. So now it turns into this whole cat and mouse thing, which very fitting considering them being the three blind mice, of Patterson and Rich trying to cover their tracks while also trying to help the case. Because interestingly enough, it's so interesting with the whole Patterson situation, because her game, the way she coded it, she can actually get back access to everyone who's ever downloaded the game, which we ended up finding out like 75 million people have downloaded this game, and it's wow. So technically Patterson's probably super rich. I don't know whether she got a payout with the whole company thing, how that all really landed for her, but it's that's a super successful game that everyone's playing. Kind of plays into the episode too, because you have Tasha and Reed playing it, and that turns into the whole thing. He's I'm gonna tell you I was playing it because you're super competitive. Also, Jane's playing it too, so yeah. But what I really appreciate the fact is because this also brought a new dynamic, because you see Rich and Patterson being so working together so well. It's just obviously it's just an interesting different dynamic, and it's almost you almost see it reflected in a sense of no, they worked together sometime before now because they're on such good terms. Because before it's we're still kind of frenemies. Now everyone doesn't really think actually this is the first time we've met since the time skip. It's no. And I think they did a very good job of showing that off, because it's not just the way they partnered up and everything, their way they talking is just not, I don't know. Because it also kind of goes against who you think Patterson would be. Patterson would go as far as doing that, because it doesn't seem like her, because that's going outside the law. She's all about the law. But then again, I guess it's kind of well, no, because it was for the greater good, and she kind of got swept up in it, because it's oh yeah, they're also because they, in particular, Rich constantly makes a reference to Robin Hood. So I thought that was just kind of interesting. I love how they did everything they could to kind of cover up their tracks. You had that moment where Rich creates that he ends up bringing an anonymous tip, and it's a recording, and he's distorted his voice, and he's you only have a couple hours, and then Patterson just cuts it off. It's yeah, it goes on like that for a while. I'm very curious what the hell else Rich said in that. Trying to play it off at every moment, because hers kind of brings them into the interrogation room and everything, which ultimately ends up blowing up in their face, because you have Kathy figuring out who they really were, because they'd never met each other prior to this, and now she figured him out. And it's because Kathy's a little crazy. It seems like there's a combination of just because it's one of those situations of you want to do the right thing, but then you just start going too far. But it also came about because her brother died on that train I brought up earlier, so it's kind of you kind of possibly being a little crazy already, plus suffering loss. It's understandable why you just kind of finally snap like that, to kind of go more vigilante and wanted to actually kill him, as well as doing other things, because they ended up exposing this dude, because it was something, I think, they basically ended up exposing him with some pictures of him uh in some fetish level stuff, which I don't think it coincided with what he was talking about, but it was more so to embarrass him. I guess it's like, well, you try to act like you're holier than thou and you're better than everyone, but look, you got this deep dark secret. I guess that was the point of it. I also thought it was kind of interesting that Patterson never corrected her, because she was like, oh, like, I get it, you guys, you were trying to tell me, like, you were giving me clues, you were forced to work there, because obviously you got caught and were forced to work with the FBI, which I thought was kind of interesting. I was like, oh, I mean, that doesn't really work for Patterson, because Patterson worked with the FBI before she worked with you. She worked with the FBI long before she worked with you. But then it's like, well, I guess in Patterson's case, it wouldn't be wise to tell her that, because it might just piss her off more. I was like, wait, you were actually an FBI person, or maybe in her mind she just wouldn't have listened anyway. It wouldn't have mattered. It just been like, oh, well, no, that's because, well, they had you brainwashed, but you broke free and now they brainwashed you again because now you're back. Rich is kind of a different case. It's like, well, he kind of fits that same situation, but I guess arguably like, well, maybe that was his own choice, but really it is more so like, no, it's part of a program. Kind of I think I might have made this comparison before. At least I feel like I recently made it about something, but it's kind of like a Neil Caffrey situation in White Collar. Like, you help us solve crimes that you're kind of good with, then we'll kind of lessen your sentence and jail time and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's kind of a little sad actually, because Kathy, for her, it's like, well, the reason why, like, she actually thought they were her friends. I also I love that line about her being like, oh my God, I was working with like the legend Rich.com. He's like, Rich, I'm like, what? Legend? I mean, I'm gonna go as far as saying legend. And then Patterson looks at him, he's like, I mean, I have actually no idea what you're talking about. It's like, I love you so much, Rich. I love that. And also, like I said, I just love his interactions with Patterson, like the kind of going back and forth. It's almost like it's kind of a love-hate relationship, kind of like her relationship with Stewart, but nevertheless. Like I said, it seems like I said, you can see that there's definitely like bonding that happened in that time skip, as well as seeing remnants of like their back and forth prior to now. But nevertheless, for her, Kathy, it was like they were her friends. She felt like they were close and everything. So it's like that's why this whole situation hit her hard, especially like them just up and leaving her like that. So she wanted the guy dead, and Rich kind of played along, which his reward for that was getting bashed in the head with a champagne glass or wine glass. I mean, bottle. Not glass, bottle. I need to correct myself on that. So, because I was wondering about that. I was like, how is this all going to play? I was like, oh, because it was like, oh, which one of the people are lying? I was like, ooh, because I was thinking like immediately. I was like, okay, so obviously we know this is about Patterson and Rich. I was like, are we going to find out that they think it's going to be about them, but actuality, I was thinking maybe it might have something to do with actually Tasha in actuality, that maybe it's something kind of her CIA days is kind of like catching up to them or something like that. I thought that might be like they kind of twisted up like that, but it's like, no, the main focus stayed on Rich and Patterson, which at one point they kind of thought they got away. I was like, okay, there's no way that's going to happen, like keep up. At one point I thought, I mean, I don't know what I really thought. I just kind of, I had a feeling you weren't going to get away with it. I thought, I don't know. But I did like the thing at the end where Reed was like, no, you know what? I think I got this figured out. Why she kidnapped you too. It's like, at first I thought it was going to be like, okay, Reed's going to misunderstand the situation. She's going, well, she kidnapped you because she saw how good you guys were, the way you were talking to her. It's like she knew she needed some people like you on her side, but she couldn't get the other two people. But it's like Reed, as well as the rest of the team, pretty much figured out. It's like she kidnapped you because you two are her ex-partners. You left like a year ago and everything. And it's just, and you have Rich almost playing dumb, like, oh yeah, I guess that is like, she'd be pissed at her partners, wouldn't she? Yeah. And you almost have Patterson looking at him like, you idiot. They know it was us. But Reed's like, we don't have any evidence. It's like, because Patterson wanted to tell him ahead of time, but at the same time, it's like, it would have meant going to jail. It would have screwed up everything for Rich, because he would have it would have revoked every, the good position he has. And he's like, oh yeah, but it'd be bad for you too, Patterson. But obviously, Rich never actually, well, I was about to say, but I got to take that back. I forgot, I'm stumbling on my words. I apologize. I was about to say, because Rich wouldn't have done anyway. He never killed anyone. I was like, right, that's wrong. Actually, the first time the group met in season 1. Wasn't that season 1 he first popped up? Yeah. He ended up killing someone. Because didn't he have a gold gun back then or something like that? Yeah, so it's not like he hasn't killed before, which is kind of weird to think about it. It's like I said, like the actor who plays him, Enos Esmer, like it always messes with me because they always make him like kind of a comic relief character. Like I always say, like I will always, when it comes to him, I will always think of Oz from The Listener. But then you also have him playing these characters that's like very witty, sarcastic, has like one-liners and stuff like that, cracks jokes, but who is very deadly. Like when with time, like I mean, especially the way Rich has been in the past, he's manipulated the FBI many times over the course of this series and the times he's popped up. So I guess I shouldn't be too surprised, especially because like last season he popped up like what 2 or 3 times last season. So I guess I shouldn't be too surprised that he's back and everything. But like I said, well, this might mean we're going to be definitely seeing him around a lot more, especially now that Stewart's dead. Like someone's got to kind of fill that tech support role. I mean, Patterson's back, but maybe they could use some extra backup. But I wonder if they're going to say anything to Hearst about it. Probably not. But I mean, it looks like they're in the clear for now. But you do have that guy they were going after this episode. He did kind of get away with everything. So it does beg the question of like, he's probably going to pop up sooner or later. Hearst was kind of like, well, you know, he's a person like him with well connections, with a lot of money, being in the position he's in. Well, you won't be able to go after him right now, but given enough time, he'll basically slip up or something. So that's just kind of interesting to me. And there's also that moment that Jane had in the episode too, when they were fighting those guys, like gas was in the air so they couldn't use the guns. Use that whole bomb situation, like rip the wires. It's like, oh, we have less time. You might want to deal with that before we all die. So like, thanks, knocks the dude out. And that guy was hurt, like choking out Kurt. And she couldn't use her gun, but she ended up putting something in front of it and fired a bullet through it and was able to hit the dude without igniting everything. I'm not science fictional. I'm not sciencey enough to know what really went down. I don't know I didn't notice what it was she picked up. But basically, I guess whatever it was muffled the ignition of the gunpowder or whatever when it fires from the barrel or whatever. I'm completely talking a lie ass here, so I guess that's why. And Kurt's like, okay, where'd you learn that? She's like, I got a couple tricks on my belt, so. Because what I really appreciate about this episode, and it's building upon something that was brought up last time, is like, this is all Roman's game, because making Jane confront like her kidnapping ransom days, you know, during a time skip, it's more so of like secrets that they're trying to keep buried will kind of eventually come to the surface. And especially because Roman calls her at the end of the episode and he talks about basically what she's done. It's basically Roman's ultimate plan is to destroy what she's built, because this relationship she has with these people, they're not just her coworkers, they're her family. They're the only people she has a connection to subsequently, you know, as Jane Doe, because that's why I never refer to her as Remy anymore, because that was a thing in season 2, because it was like a balancing between being Remy and being Jane. But now, I mean, that was kind of an undercover thing, but still, like, that aspect of her being Remy played a big part in that season, because it's like having to play being that person is kind of rediscovering who she was as Remy. But now she's fully Jane. That's the identity she is. That's who she is now. And so now Roman's basically planning to destroy that life, but not just with her, but all the secrets that everyone has buried. So destroy this family this life that she's had, because he wants her to feel the same way he does, left alone and broken. Because there's a whole Shepard thing, sure, but Shepard was just kind of a collateral damage. Like, ultimately, he didn't care about her. What he cared about is the fact is that she's the one that betrayed him in the beginning. It didn't matter about Shepard. It's like, you betrayed me. We were family. You were the only person I had. He cared about Shepard. It's like, Shepard's like, you know, once again, they didn't refer to her as mom. They called her Shepard, but she was the only person he had, so she took his memories and then she lied about it and manipulated him in his eyes. And no matter how sorry Jane is about it, it doesn't matter. It's like, you think you know pain? I'm going to show you pain. So he's going to basically break and destroy this family that she's tried so hard to keep up. And sure, there's going to be a lot more secrets that she has buried. We still got stuff Kurt hasn't revealed about the whole, like, well, I was in whatever went down, wasn't it in Berlin that Roman was warning about? And then obviously you definitely know there's something up with Tasha, even besides the whole situation of like at the beginning, like in the premiere, her and Keenan were talking and it's like, oh, one of the tattoos was related to something that they have a connection to. And it's like, is it going to be a problem? It's like, as long as the team doesn't really find out, then no. But even aside from that, I'm sure, you know, it's kind of a conversation Reed brought up in the premiere too, of like, you were with the CIA. I'm sure you've been up to some shady stuff. So there's that. Some interesting notes about this episode too. There was a whole aspect about like, how they figured out Patterson was in trouble because Kathy sent like an email responding to like a text, but like, no. she said her first name instead of, she never goes by her name, like, call it her Patterson, which is kind of an interesting thing. Also because, she emailed rather than text back. So that's how I immediately knew something was wrong. But what's kind of interesting to me is like the moment they said, I was like, they probably have, I don't remember them ever saying Patterson's name, but they probably have like her first name. Just because she's always been Patterson to me. And that's always kind of an interesting thing because it works like that with different characters. Like Reed, I always call him Reed, but his first name's Ed. Same thing for Kurt. But I feel like with Kurt, I go back and forth between Weller and Kurt. But I feel like more often than not, I call him Kurt. Like Tasha, like I definitely call her by her first name. I rarely call her Zapata. So that's just how I am. But it's like Patterson, like I don't remember if they've ever talked about what her first name is. Like I said, might have, and I just don't remember. I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing. And it's like, yeah, she's always goes by Patterson. No one calls her by anything but that. So that was kind of a definitely like dead giveaway. So other small things in this episode was the whole like Megan, Reed's girlfriend, and Tasha are texting. It's like, I was like, oh my gosh, she's so funny and everything. Like, oh, we had that great dinner and everything. It's like, last time we left, I was like, oh, that's super awkward. But it's like, no, apparently not. Which then kind of goes, okay, that is weird. Your ex and your current girlfriend. I mean, but the fact of the matter is, let's face it, Tasha, we saw that last season when Tasha was developing feelings for Reed when there was something there. She tried to pretend like it was nothing. It's like, oh yeah, oh man, I saw you with that hot blonde or whatever. Like, what? She's kind of being more a friend, it's like, we're best friends. She's kind of be more of a bro, but I think that might be what we're seeing here. I don't know. Like they went in their two different ways. They never had like a proper like closure type of situation just because they were mad at each other for different things. So we'll see where that goes this season too. So there's also that Freddie's ex, or was that his current girlfriend? That Reed was kind of getting mixed up with. Never like the moment like Reed started kind of like, because for her it was like, I like to party on the weekends, but after that I go into mom mode. Like that's just my time to blow off steam. And if you're kind of getting caught up in that world, I don't, you're kind of part of that weekend crazy life. I don't want anything to do with you any other point in time. That's the last time we saw her, so I doubt that's anything that's ever going to come up again. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see. But most likely there won't ever be anything else. That's probably like a one and done type of thing. Like it was only for season 2. So, but you never know. But then it was also revealed, like, because they were looking into Stewart's death, but there's been some covering up, like, because like he has a device. It kind of coincides with like real life stuff because there's that whole concern about like Google Homes and stuff like that, about how like, even though it tells you it's not supposed to listen until you use the keywords of telling it to listen, that it's always listening. And there was like some malfunction showing that, yeah, it was still listening all the time. So there was that thing that kind of plays in this episode because Stewart kind of had something similar to that. But it wasn't there at the crime scene. So now it's like, oh, so the killer took it because it must have recorded something. They confront the people behind that device, which you saw a different, like, I feel like Reed, I don't know. Maybe Kurt would usually be that pushy. I don't know, but it's just kind of cool seeing Reed be like, yo, don't try, do. Here's my card. Tell me when you got what we need. I need it by tonight, or I'm coming back here and you don't want to see me pissed, essentially. Not what Reed said, obviously. I'm paraphrasing, but, it was just kind of interesting seeing like, oh, yeah, like, being the assistant director of the FBI, fits him well. But then it turns out that this is all connected to, well, this, like it is in fact like the tattoo that Stewart was trying to figure out. You have Patterson eventually figuring it out that basically it relates to a whole bunch of names that were basically all the people who originally owned the Van Gogh painting. So I was like, what does that have to do with anything? Well, at the end we see a guy that was like, okay, did you do what I asked you to? Because the lady was the one that covered up the stuff. And the guy turns and he's missing an ear, like ergo like Van Gogh. So is that like supposed to be like an elusive, like we can nudge towards that person, or is it supposed to be, or is that like connected to something else greater? Like I said, it's too early in the season to be like, what is the exact end game? I mean, we got to a certain degree the end game, but at the same time, it's like Roman constantly talking to Kurt about like, oh, I'm not trying to burn the world, I'm trying to save it. So are you trying to like save it? You're trying to push Jane's team to do some good in the world, because to him it seems like it's all about revealing sins. That's what this whole season's about. So it's like helping them reveal the sins of the world while also revealing their own sins, kind of seeing the ugliness that is buried beneath that none of them are telling each other. It's like, oh, you're this great team saving people, but can you really trust the people that are right beside you? That type of thing. Because I thought immediately, I was like, are we going to have like another mole situation, especially the way the previews played it? I can say it at this point in time just because, but prior to the episode airing, I saw the like previews for it, and I was like, are we having another mole situation? It's like, that happens like every season, but it's like, no, it was a different thing. It's just, like I said, this isn't the first time they've done it. They did that in another episode. I can't remember. I think it was something last season. Like, the previews made it seem completely different than what it was. I mean, it was kind of a similar thing of like, you can't really trust anybody, but it was played up in a different way to make it seem like it was definitely a more mole type of situation. I thought that was kind of interesting, but nevertheless, I mean, like I said, overall, another great episode. I'm very interested to see where like all of this takes us in the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good